Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Poetry News with R.sen, Squigs, Eddie, and me. How's everyone doing today? Are you well?
Hey, good. What's going on?
Feeling better this week, yeah.
Glad to hear it, Squigs. It's really glad to have you back with us.
Yes.
I didn't sleep much last night, but I have coffee to keep me energized and poetry to keep my soul in good check. So it's all good. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers, everyone.
Coffee would have been a better choice, healthier choice, but I've gone with soda today.
Soda's good. We like soda.
Cheers.
Absolutely. So we have lots of exciting stuff coming up on the show today. But first, regular viewers of this channel will know that I love a good Shakespeare pun. However, I am starting to really scrape the barrel, as if I wasn't already. So I have a different type of pun for you this week. Why can you only ran through a campsite?
Why?
Because it's past tense.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry, not sorry.
All right.
Yes, we have lots of exciting stuff coming up on the show today, so we will crack on with it. I would like to talk to you about socialbookshelves.com. Now, Social Bookshelves are a UK-based website who provide short book reviews. It's a website run by Dane Cobain, who also presents a radio show on local UK radio station Wickham Sound and his own YouTube channel, where on both he also talks about the books he reviews and does interviews with some of the authors. He also has a wonderful cat called Biggie. Dane reviewed my book last year and, well, he really liked it actually, and also interviewed me on his radio show last year. So I can personally vouch for him being a top bloke and someone with a genuine love of what he does. Anybody with a book can submit it to him for review, but obviously please do carefully read his review policy before submitting, especially just because you ask for a review, it doesn't mean you'll get one. And the review is the length. The number of words is the same as the number of pages in your book. So a 100-page book gets a 100-word review. And also, what I really like about this site is that he gives his honest opinion, and it's the opinion entirely based on the merits of the book, regardless of who wrote it. So if he doesn't like it, you'll get a bad review. If he loves it, you'll get a great review. It's a real, genuine, authentic opinion based entirely on the book. So if this is something that you're interested in, head over to socialbookshelves.com. At this point, I'd like to ask R.sen, Eddie, and Squigs, what do you think about this? Be interested in submitting anything to it?
I mean, yeah, actually, honestly, as a person I just published my first book actually in February, and it's always nice for people to buy the book, but I actually appreciate getting honest feedback. So things like this are important. And I feel like a lot of people don't do that because they don't want to hurt people's feelings, but it's like, how do you improve if you don't know what to improve on? So I really appreciate this kind of platform.
Yeah, exactly. When you said that he gives his honest, authentic review, it immediately crossed my mind how like sometimes in certain communities, we're all trying to be nice to one another, which is great. I mean, even a bad review should be nice and constructive. But sometimes we fall in the trap of not wanting to hurt anyone and not wanting to give them any bad reviews, any notes, anything, just so that we don't look like the bad guy. And this is where things get bad, I would say. This is where things get still. We need bad reviews. We need these honest opinions for us to move forward as a community and as individuals in this community. So it's really interesting how he actually gives an honest review no matter what.
I think it's interesting how the word count of his review is the page count of the book. So it makes me wonder, like, it's like it could be a record to break, make the longest book for him. 2, make the longest review for, or the shortest book. What constitutes a book? I'm sure it's not just one page. But if I submitted a book that had one page, an honest review would probably be more single word. Anyway.
Absolutely. And it's so true what you were saying about the need for honest feedback. Because I know one of the most important chats with someone that I had, I won't say who it is, when my manuscript for my book was at an early stage. And I went to them and we sat down for a coffee and they said, "Do you want my honest opinion?" And I said, "Yes." And I certainly got it. And at the time, it felt really crushing. But when I actually sat and analysed it, most of what they said was right. And my book wouldn't have become what it was without that, at the time, crushing feedback. So yeah, it's really important. So yeah, if you're interested, socialbookshelves.com, Dane Cobain, Wickham Sound, really nice guy, really good book reviewer. So do check him out. And we'll be back right after this.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Eddie, and today I'm joining you from Beirut, not Batoon, in Lebanon. Today I'm bringing you a workshop that is really, really interesting and different from many things that we've had on this show. Today I'm bringing you a workshop that will take place tomorrow, the 9th of November at 10 a.m. GMT, and it is called Saying Yes. It is a workshop by the Happy Place Project. It is a workshop that will focus on the more positive aspects of life. It is the things that we need to look at to find beauty in the ordinary, or even the things that are more disgusting, or things that usually don't look beautiful to us. It is a way for us to celebrate what we appreciate through writing. We'll look at poems and focus on things that make us say yes to the morning, to ourselves, to the universe we have around us. This workshop is open for everyone, of all experiences, and it will be a safe space for people to write together. I repeat, this workshop will take place on Tuesday, November 9 at 10 a.m. GMT. Let's bring back my fellow Heralds and see, what do you guys think about the poetry that focuses on the positives in life instead of what we're used to about poetry that is usually depressing or sad, or more focusing on the issues that we have?
It's something I really, really like the sound of, because, I think the world, and a lot of people who are creating content at the moment, it's reflecting the fact that the world is in a real malaise. And if it's not all these various isms and phobias rearing their heads, it's climate change, or it's the increasing inequality of capitalism in the world. And it's kind of, there's so much heavy stuff, and that's reflected not just in poetry, but in music. In any new TV series you see, you'll often find these really kind of heavy themes in it, and it's some amazing content. There's some amazing poetry that's reflecting the current state of the world, but it can also be really heavy, and also sometimes a little bit overwhelming when you have too much of it. And the idea of focusing on these positives, focusing on, I think you said, beauty, the beauty in the ordinary. You can find beauty in pretty much anything if you look for it. And I love the idea of, almost in a way, training your mind to do that. This could have, real positive benefits, not just for any poems you create out of it, but just state of mind generally. So yeah, I'm really, really in favor of that.
Yeah, I tend to agree. And as on a personal note, outside of here, I'm always trying to figure out, one of my big things to do is personal improvement. And recently I've been reading a book that talked about the attitude of gratitude. So I feel like this falls very much in line with it, because our craft as poets, performing poets, it takes up a lot of our time, right? So often you don't get a chance to appreciate it. And this is giving you that conscious moment to appreciate it and really remember why you started doing this, because you love it. So I really, really appreciate this workshop for that reason.
I think the idea of the workshop is interesting. I mean, to write about more positive things in life. I know, sounds kind of insane, but that's just me. I prefer to write about less so happy things. So this is definitely a draw to check out this workshop. Maybe you could train yourself to be more positive and get those good brainwaves going, countering out the bad ones. All right, thank you. That's my contribution to that.
I really like how R.sen took it meta and like not only appreciating the beautiful things in life, or like everything, or finding beauty in life, and like the poetry itself, go back and look at it and find the beauty in it and find as to why you love doing that. That's really meta. I don't know if that's trademarked now, but like that's really meta, and I really like that. All right, so we're going to head to the US and see what R.sen has for us, but first we'll have a break.
Hi, it's R.sen. Thanks, Eddie, for the intro. Since we're talking about happiness, we might as well get lit too. I mean, poetry lit, because that's the name of this open mic that I'm about to talk about. Poetry lit is a once a month at the beginning of the month open mic. They just had their November 1, November 5th, where they featured Harry Josephine Giles and Rachel McCrum. The next one will be December 3rd, and they will feature Vicky Fever and Patricia Ace. And it is a really great open mic that is, once again, free 99. I will always bring you the free 99 events as much as I can. And all you have to do is register on Zoom, register on Eventbrite Zoom, and sign into Zoom. And you get to go ahead and share whatever poetry you like, listen to poetry, get inspired, get lit. How do you feel about that, guys?
What does it mean to be lit?
Lit means getting hype, getting excited. I mean, I think it actually means like getting drunk too, but that's your
Goes
choice.
hand in hand poetry.
Yeah,
I mean, coffee.
It's coffee.
It's coffee.
Yeah, of course. Very distinguished and dignified here at the Poetry News. Okay. So, workshop. Let's get lit. Poetry lit. $3.99. I'll be checking that out.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically a worldwide open mic. You know, we love those virtual ones. Now that they're dying out, it's really cool that this one's still continuing. They have features in the beginning, so it's kind of like a workshop too. If you really want to if you're like kind of in a rut, like I'm starting to get writer's block, but that's also because it's winter time and all I want to do is sleep and be under my comforter. So yeah, I really appreciate events like this.
So aside from getting lit though, there's no theme to each month, or is there an overarching thing? No, just bring your poetry.
Yep, just bring
lit.
your poetry and your beautiful face, basically.
You know, I did go to Poetry Lit a few times at the start of the year, late last year, and yeah, it was a really nice event. It's hosted really nicely. It's really welcoming. What I did find was that the open mic spaces, they fill up really quickly. So I think I had to wait a couple of months before the next available spot was, and things like that. But it's sometimes even if you can't get a spot, because like it's quite a quick fire event. You come, you get the headliners, you get some open mics, and it's a really nice event. It doesn't take up too much of your evening, and it's really nice sometimes to just go along and watch. You know, I mean, I love performing, but if you can't get on for a couple of months, just go along and watch. You'll just sit back and see some really good poetry from poets you might not have seen before.
Yeah, I agree. So I've been starting to, confession, erotic poetry makes me super awkward. I can't write it. So what I've been doing recently is I've been going on virtual workshops and paying attention to those so I can start writing more into it, because obviously I want to like expand my abilities to write. So that's been really interesting, and I've been finding that it makes it a lot easier to like, well, I'm still awkward. I'm always going to be awkward, but like it makes it easier to like at least start brainstorming a little bit about what you want to write about and stuff like that. So this might be a similar thing for you. Maybe you'll find a poem there that you've been trying to write about, and you finally get the inspiration and get to do it.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing about these themeless open mics, that you will find whatever it is out there, any theme, any topic, anything, and you will get inspired. You will hear these beautiful figures, these beautiful lines that will spark something in you, and it will launch a new poem by you, it's really interesting because you don't know what you're going to see or don't know what you're going to encounter, and that's, I think this is really beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much, and that's what I got for you. Everybody, go get lit responsibly.
Cheers.
Cheers. Let's go on to our next segment with Squigs right after this break.
Good morning, good day, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I am Squigs, once again joining you from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, for the poetry news. And last week, our herald Eddie had touched upon environmental poetry, and as the COP26 is beginning to close down, I'd like to draw our attention to an article from www.euronews.com/green, in an article titled "An Eye Between Nature and Itself. These are the best Irish eco-poets" by Lottie Lim. What is eco-poetry? Eco-poetry is a brand of nature poetry that, like ecology, concerns itself with the fragile interrelationship between living things and the environment. In other words, it reveals the world around us. Not all writers, though, who illustrate this would identify themselves as eco-poets, but describing plants, creatures, and other life forms in fine detail, through doing this, they educate and encourage us to care about the world around us. Naming is knowing and essential for acting on our myriad environmental crises. Giving voice to the non-human. One writer who took poetry to the brink of embodying the non-human was Dermot Healy. His book, A Fool's Errand, charts the migration of over 3,000 barnacle geese from Greenland to his home in Sligo every October. The 89-long sonnet sequence is presented in lines of twos and threes, mirroring the fleeting shapes of the bird's flight. And in a piece from these sonnets reads as I shall read. At 4:30, they come spilling, in twos and fours, a swinging fifth, in a wild symmetry to make the shape of a fish. Then for one astounding moment, the lines sketch a huge bird with long, thin, winding wings. And when Healy had passed away in 2014, then another Irish poet, Harry Clifton, praised his poetry as like an eye opening, an eye or a space between nature and itself. Now, considering the state of eco-poetry today, contemporary poets are constantly innovating with this form, impacted by climate change themselves and giving expression to the urgency needed to rectify it. One of the most compelling ways this is done is not by telling people what to do, but by making the world more beautiful in all its biodiversity and showing how intricately it includes us. Sean Hewitt, winner of the Ginkgo Prize for Eco-Poetry in 2017, in his poem Ilex, links the poetry of nature with the queer poetry of the body in a way that makes the connections shine. Now, in this world, goes on to say that in this world, I believe there is nothing lost, only translated. He writes in his 2020 book, Tongues of Fire. Now, poetry cannot fix the climate crisis. People can. And the more our empathies and imaginations are stirred, the better. So I would like to thank you for your time, everyone, and I would like to welcome back our heralds. Just a small conversation about eco-poetry, poetry about the environment, as Eddie had brought to our attention last week, and by now the COP26 will be closing down in a few days. So yes, everyone, what are your thoughts about environmentalism and poetry?
I think I apologize if you hear the background noise. My mom is talking to the phone on India, and she thinks that by screaming on the phone, they can hear her better. So she's like trying to actually reach India from here.
That's what my mom thinks about the Philippines.
And I'm like, why? Why is this happening? Anyway, but what I was going to say is I think it's such an important topic that doesn't get enough attention in poetry. what we try to do when we're poets, right? Or maybe I should speak for myself, is we try to raise awareness, right? And the fact that environmental poetry is something that is coming up and rising, it seems like, is really important. And I hope it's a way that's effective. I hope it's a way that's effective. I can't speak, but I hope it's a way that's effective. Is what I'm trying to say.
Definitely bring awareness to the population, to the masses, is a great way to raise the initiative for progress. Poetry is just beautiful.
Well, yeah. Sorry, Eddie, go for it.
Yeah. All right. I really liked when you said like some poets are giving voice to the non-human or to non-humans, because this is really important and really interesting. It's an image all by itself, giving voice to non-humans, because whenever we're talking about any issue that we are facing in performance poetry, especially that modern day poetry focuses a lot on these issues, justice, etc. We usually deal with human issues, not that the environmental issues are not human issues, but we deal with racism, sexism, mental health, homophobia or transphobia, and all of these. We deal with these things that are human, and then we ignore or we forget that environmental issues are a thing. Like whenever I'm thinking of the topics that one could write about to perform, I usually disregard or just forget about environmental issues. So it's really nice to see how we are trying to give voice to non-human, and the way that some poets are doing it, like you mentioned, Squigs, is through showing the beauty of the environment instead of telling us what to do, as most environmentalists would do. So it's just it's a really interesting and beautiful way of using poetry to raise awareness, but without being commanding and without being just keeping the authenticity of or the beauty of poetry, not lapsing onto speeches and commands.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I mean, I do find that showing is more powerful than telling, because there's a lot of, if what telling can sometimes do is entrench the person you're telling into the position that you're trying to change. And showing is a much more powerful way of doing that, because if that does engage and affect someone, they're coming to that opinion by themselves rather than being told to have it. Right. It's a much more powerful way of doing it. And I think it's very interesting as well. I think one of the things, I can't remember who it was that said it, is that poetry can't fix the climate crisis, but humans can. And it's a case of the art form is part of that process to do that. But I find it really interesting that the article is self-aware enough to acknowledge that although poems are part of that awareness raising, it's the actual physical and direct actions of reducing our carbon footprint and all of the actions that are well documented and well known to actually do stuff to make positive changes. Like, I mean, it's simple things like you go to the supermarkets here in the UK and the bananas are often wrapped in plastic, and it's like, if only they had a naturally occurring protective skin, things like that. And it's just, but it's these poetry is very good at talking about sort of, when I say small things, like small in terms of time, little observations like that are things that can become poems, that can become powerful tools in people's minds. And like you say, especially when it's showing, not telling. So although I don't read a lot of eco poetry myself, I do think it's really important, and this is great.
Yes, I'd like to draw everyone's attention again to the article that is by www.euronews.com/green, an article written by Lottie Lim once again. And you think about, like, maybe because there wasn't any TV or internet back in the day, but a lot of cultures base their art and their expression about nature, especially over here, like in North America with the indigenous cultures. Nature was a very big thing in their lives and in their identity. Yes. So I guess we're closing off the week with the show. Eddie, R.sen, Martin.
So we have loads of stuff on Poetry Global Network, and we would love to know what you think, not just about the news this week, but the news each week and our other shows too. So we have the Poetry News, we have the Poets Reacts, we have the Poets Lighthouse, we have Breathe Poet, we have Bottoms Up, and we'd love you to check out all of our socials and check out our shows and just get involved with what we're doing. That'd be fantastic. And Eddie's got the lowdown on all the social media links.
Yes, everyone follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, now on TikTok, and check out our YouTube page. See all of the videos that we have. Make sure that you like, you subscribe, you comment below what you think about this video, about all the topics that we just discussed. And if you want to tell us anything, please make sure you send us an email at thepoetryglobalnetwork@gmail.com. That is all we have for you today. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, R.sen. Thank you, Squigs. Thank you, everyone, for watching and joining us. We'll see you next week.